Welcome to the Life is But a Dream podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Liv Topher.
And I'm Becky Dreps.
And today we're excited to talk to you about dreaming with the cosmos, and in particular, Neptune, the dreamer. And Neptune governs all kinds of things to do with the dreams, liminal spaces, the in-between. And this week in particular, we felt inspired because Neptune just went retrograde on July 7th. And so we're just a few days in, but we're going to be working with Neptune in retrograde until December 12th at the end of 2026. So we have a period of time where we're going to be noticing the retrograde aspects. Retrogrades always ask us to review, reflect, revise, rethink. So that brought us to thinking and reviewing how Neptune has been working with us in terms of the dreaming landscape. And so right away, it brought me to thinking about Neptune and Pisces. So going all the way back to Neptune just moved into Aries this year in February. But last year we got a little retrograde taste between Pisces and Aries.
And how long does Neptune stay in a sign?
Neptune is in a sign for about 14 years.
Okay.
It's like 13.9, something like that.
Yeah. So it's quite a while. So when it makes a shift, that's like a big shift.
Yeah.
That you're like moving into a whole, like, so we think about Neptune as this archetype of the dreamer, and we stay in like essentially like a dream space for, 12 to 14 years, long time. So like, that's like, okay, let's.
Especially when you think about Neptune being in Pisces, that was kind of governing since 2011, the collective dream.
Yeah.
And our belief systems and disillusionment. I mean, there was a lot going on in particular with Neptune and Pisces.
And so the flavor of Pisces is going to be like, Pisces is the two fish. So there's always that like element of duality. But it's also the last one, the last zodiac sign. So some people talk about it as like mastery, like you can.
Yeah, we completed a 165-year cycle for Neptune to make it all the way around the zodiac. So it was kind of a big deal to pay attention to in the moment before it begins a new hero's journey.
Yeah.
As it moved into Aries finally this year in February.
Yeah. And Aries is the very beginning. So this is like a whole new, it's like a reset almost. So starting to pay attention. So go back to what you were saying about, we got a little taste of it last year, and now we've moved into it. We're going to be in Aries for the next 14 years, but Neptune is going to, it retrogrades like 6 months out of the year usually. And so we had our forward movement in Neptune, and now it's starting to retrograde back. And so when we're in retrograde, as we talked about, that's all that review revise. So like what is started to shift and change.
Yeah. So in review, I thought all the way back to, I wrote a Substack article actually about this week, but I thought all the way back to how Neptune actually is what brought my attention to paying attention to astrological cycles with my dreams. And I like to call it dreaming with the cosmos. But in particular, when Neptune was in the final degrees of Pisces, I spontaneously felt like looking into my dream journal, just kind of looking back to what had been going on. What was the landscape like, if you will? And I kept flipping back and noticed that I had been dreaming for 47 days consecutively, which was a lot for me. Vivid dreams, 3 or 4 times a week, but 47 days in a row, I was like, whoa, what is this? And at that time, I reviewed it and noticed a story arc, that it wasn't just individual dreams. While I might have thought of them as individual dreams, there was actually a whole chapter happening during that last decade of Neptune and Pisces. And so sitting in this 29th degree, I'm having this moment of like, wow, this is pretty incredible. And thinking of all the things that we know about astrological flavors of Neptune and Pisces, I thought that was really interesting. So I went into Neptune's ingress into Aries with a curiosity. I wonder if my dreams will change. I wonder if the landscape changed. I wonder if this has any energetic influence on what we dream. And immediately I felt the shift. And I remember even joking about I miss my Piscean dreams because my Pisces dreams were much more mythological. And, there was dragons and jaguars and like elemental beings and energy coming out of I mean, there was just a lot of like really creative dreams.
Yeah.
And when I shifted into Aries, it immediately went to what felt like more subconscious work, like
Mhm.
more who am I work. It was a little bit more cut and dry and like problems I was going through or situations I was trying to figure out versus like my dreamy landscape. Did you notice anything different right away when you shifted into Aries?
So I didn't notice right away when I shifted into Aries, but what was interesting is when you and I were talking about, you know, dream arcs, you should go back and look because I also journal my dreams every the mornings and when I wake up. I'll write all of it down, but I don't normally like go back and look at them as are they connected. I always think of them as a singular movie versus a TV series,
Yeah.
And so, and you had mentioned there was an arc. You should go back and look and see if there's an arc. And I remember going back and looking, and then I started to notice that in a funny way, I was having all these dreams about ex-boyfriends, and they kept coming up, which was really this integration of these different parts of the masculine, which I do feel like was, Aries is the warrior. It is one of the more masculine signs in the zodiac. And I was like, this is so interesting that all of these dreams that I've been having are really trying to help me integrate different elements of the masculine and how that is something that I'm working on within myself. But it also was very similar to what you said. It was very self-focused. It wasn't things outside in the collective.
Hmm.
It was talking about me, which Aries, as the first sign in the zodiac, it is the self, it's the me. And
It
so it
asks,
was,
who am I? Yeah.
who am I? And here I am allowing myself to be reflected in all of these different masculine characters that I've experienced through my life that are just reflecting these are parts. And in most of the dreams, they were really people that I may not have had the best relationship, but in the dreams, they were really beautiful relationships where it was like um, I was having a moment of, "Oh, I'm so glad you're doing so well." And it was like this recognition of myself being reflected in this other person of like, "Oh, you've integrated this. You're working with this. This is
Well,
this
I think
new
that's one
part."
thing that's so beautiful about dreams because it is said that every aspect in a dream is you. So
Yeah.
people play these roles and characters and feelings and emotions and symbols. But if you ask the question, like, why is this me? Why is this me? It's really interesting to get that reflection.
Yeah, and it was interesting to have it, because sometimes you have like an ex or something show up in a dream and you're like, "Oh no." Like, or should I text them? You're probably not. It's just your subconscious helping you. But it was good for me to be able to see them and also to meet these characters with and each one I was like meeting them with love. And it wasn't like we needed to be reconnected in any sort of a romantic way. It was more just like a familiar and friendly way. And so it
Mm.
was me allowing myself to be friendly to myself
To
and
your masculine
to my
aspects.
masculine aspects and in different types of masculine
Mm.
aspects too, which was a cool way to pull it back in. So that was the arc that I started to see and was like, wow, this is so fascinating and interesting. And they were also different people. But then I noticed that it was 4 or 5 different ones all in a row.
So what happened when it retrograded back to Pisces?
So
Did
when
you notice a shift?
well, yeah, I have not been dreaming at all.
Oh,
And so it's like,
well, we're back in Aries now.
well, we're in Aries, but
Yeah.
since we went into retrograde on the 7th, like
Mm,
it's like the TV show shut off.
interesting.
And so I'm in a period right now. I was
This
waking up
actually
every
comes
morning.
up for people a lot. I think I have a lot of people. I'm so fascinated by dreams that I talk about them a lot, and I ask people about their dreams a lot. And I think a lot of people say, "No, I don't dream," or "I have a hard time recalling," or forget really quickly. And I do think, well, for one, doing dream work practice definitely helps. And
Mhm.
the more you do it, the more you're able to recall quicker and easier. But I also think that, it's a check in with your nervous system. I feel like when I go dark, if you will, like no dreams, my nervous system is usually heightened. There's maybe stress where I find that it's a period of time where either I'm needing to integrate something, like I've moved through a big life lesson and my dreams have been helping me in the psyche level to move and integrate through something really big. And then it goes dark because the body needs rest, the mind needs rest. I think you're still dreaming, but we're just not we're so deep so that we can restore that we're not pulling it through. So I do think looking back at the journals, when it was in Pisces, it was definitely more mythological. When it
Mhm.
shifted into Aries, it definitely became more self based. We have one more retrograde back into Pisces. My dreams completely shifted back into this mythical realm, and I do miss them. But then in February this year, in 2026, Neptune did move into Aries permanently for the next 14 years. And so that's what the collective is going to be moving through, how we're dreaming this new hero's journey, this new 165-year journey through the astrological signs. And so I do think there is this question of, who am I? What is this dream that we're dreaming into reality? And as we have had these little moments of Neptune being newly into Aries, we're now being asked to integrate some of those newer lessons of our hero's journey that's just begun. We're re-looking at the things that we are dreaming. We had a huge Neptune Saturn conjunction also in Aries, which was making real the dream, Saturn giving structure and legs to some of these new higher dimensional dreams that we're trying to pull through as a collective. But before we get into all of that or any more of the astrology and dreaming, we probably should talk about, what is Neptune? How did Neptune get the name, the meaning for the astrological flavor that it provides?
Yeah.
I mean, I know Neptune is a Roman name. It was better known as Poseidon.
Yeah. In the Greek pantheon, it's Poseidon.
Yeah.
And in the Roman pantheon, we have Neptune, but is the god of the seas. Each planet has an archetype that it aligns to. So we keep calling Neptune as the dreamer. So that is the archetype within the zodiac that we talk about. But how did it go from being the god of the seas to being the dreamer? And one of the things, if we start to tie in Jungian dream analysis, is when we think about the subconscious, that is the thing that's underneath what we can't see. And this, so much of the sea is the place that we really, we go and explore the skies, but we haven't even explored a lot of the depths of the seas. And there's things in the seas and creatures in the seas that we don't know about, that we don't understand. And it's more of our earth than our land,
And I
you
think
know?
Carl Jung made a reference to, the consciousness,
Hmm.
your conscious mind being the ocean,
Yeah.
and the wave thinking it's separate, but
Mm.
then with consciousness realizing it is the ocean.
Mhm.
And so I think that's where the mind has gotten a lot of reference around the ocean, and then related, all the mental aspects related to Poseidon, Neptune,
Yeah.
is this oceanic quality of our mind, the coming and going of thoughts, taming the emotions, the waves that roll through us, all of the mythical creatures that come with the ocean.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about the trident? Isn't there something about Neptune's trident also
Yeah, and
being the
so it has three spokes to it, and so it's the conscious, the unconscious, and the collective conscious. And these all work together. So we have our waking life, what we know, what we're aware of, and then we have the unconscious, what we're not aware of. And so part of it in the dream world, we are working with the unconscious, but some of that is on a conscious level and some of that isn't. Some of the symbols and the things that we get in the dream world, we know and we understand, and then other things
are not logical,
are
which
not
is very
logical.
Neptunian. And I think, Neptunian, it also governs illusion and the quality of water, where it's not something that you can necessarily hold. It's not tangible. Water move right through your fingers if you try to hold it.
Yeah.
And that is, very Neptunian. That's where dreams are really hard to hold on to if you pull it through. And I think, in neuroscience, when they talk about dreaming, it's often discarded very quickly as, well, yeah, you're dreaming about your day. Your brain's just cleaning itself and processing, things that you've seen or, stories you've heard. But I feel like that's discrediting what dreams are doing, because the things that we see, the symbols that we pay attention to or just pass through our, unconscious mind as we move through the day, I think become the field of language that our dreams are using to try to speak to us.
Hmm.
It's not so much that the brain is just clearing things out. I think it's like, oh, maybe this is how I can relay this message through this dream from wherever this is coming from,
Yeah, and
from our deep psyche or soul.
also I think one of the great part about dreams in general is there's so much of life where we have to do active work. We have to actively understand something. You actively learn something. Even just the act of being alive, you're in this space of doing. But in the dream world, when you are relaxed, your nervous system is relaxed. You're doing this subconscious work without effort. Some, like some parts of life on earth can be a lot. And it's nice to know that, like,
efforting.
yeah, so much efforting. And then it's nice to know that the brain and the psyche is taking care of you in that sleep space without your effort. And it really is just putting on this, like, piece of entertainment, which can be so fun. And then there's the layer of, like, oh my gosh, there's so many symbols in here. There's so many things. And at first you may just be like, oh, I had a dream I was flying. How fun. But then you start to understand, like, maybe there is something that you are, there could be a meaning behind the flight or what that has to do with it. And then you get to start to just get curious and ask yourself the questions around, if this is a symbol that shows up over and over again, how, what does that mean? And so in your what was it, 37
47.
days,
Yeah.
what were some of the symbols that showed up?
During that time, I was preparing to lead a retreat in Taos, New Mexico about connecting with the elements. So a lot of my dreams were about the elements. I had several dreams with tornadoes, but instead of being scared of the tornadoes, I was actually able to move them. I had like energy in my hands and I could move tornadoes. There was like a dream with 25 tornadoes where you could look at that and be like, chaos, stressed mind. Like, of course, there's tornadoes. There's a lot going on. I'm, working really hard. But it wasn't, because you tune into the feeling like, well, was I in chaos? Was I scared? Was I, running from the tornadoes? And no, I was like in awe and wonder of working with the tornadoes and like, wow, I can move them and clear them. And there was other elemental aspects as well. I was initiated by a jaguar as a fire keeper. And there was a lot. It was a lot of the Neptunian mythological creatures. It was fairies, it was gnomes, it was dragons, jaguars, elements, several dreams about the ocean itself. And so, to me at the time, I remember it resonating because I was going to be teaching people about reverence for nature and working with elemental beings and seeing them in a more, real way that you can work with them, a real sacred
Mhm.
act. And so to me, I was like, oh my gosh, as I was just seeing these individually, once I looked back, it almost felt like training ground. Like if I was going to teach about elements, I was being taught somehow, some way through my dreams.
Yeah. So that brings in the divine piece of dreaming and how it is like we, so yes, it's our brain doing all this work. It's helping us, but all these symbols and the things that are coming in, like there's a divine element that plays into the dream space. And how, you know, if we go back forever ago, within tribes, the dreamers were revered. You needed to have your dreamer in the
Yeah.
tribe, and they really helped, you know, integrate things that were going on. They also, some of it was prophetic, they were saying something is coming, something is happening. But
Speaking of, have you ever had a prophetic dream?
I
Even if it wasn't like a prophecy, but like had a dream and then something similar played out in life and you're like, whoa, I just dreamed about
I definitely have, but not one comes to mind right now. Um, but I know you have.
that. It is like a very simple dream, but it was interesting that I was just like, whoa, okay. It helped me check my attitude in the moment.
Mm,
My husband was like dressed in 4th of July colors. He was like in red, white, and blue and all dressed up super snazzy. And he just had this like attitude of let's go have some fun. And I was like in my pajamas carrying around a bag of old French fries and looking for trash cans. And then in real life, as 4th of July plans came up, I was like feeling ho hum. I didn't want to go do anything. And he was like, let's go, let's go. And I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like my dream was warning me, like, hey, you don't want to be the girl that's stuck with trash cans and French fries. Get your clothes on and go have some fun. So really simple, but it was like a thread. It was because I pay attention, I was able to catch myself in the moment and change, make a conscious choice
yeah.
versus just being like, nah, I'm not going to. But
Yeah.
it's silly.
But I have a lot of deja vu where, like, I know it's not it's like I have dreamed this and then I live it.
Yeah.
And so it's not that I can exactly remember the dream, but I know it. But I always love when I have a moment of deja vu and I'm like, oh, I'm living my dream life.
And so deja vu is very Neptunian, just to bring it back to Neptune. I mean, Neptune rules all things liminal space, like all the in between aspects. So dusk and dawn, fog, the moment before you fall asleep, the moment before you wake up or after you wake up. What else? Hospitals, abandoned buildings,
Elevators,
elevators,
airports,
airports, all these like transitional
yeah,
spaces.
train
So
stations.
I hotels even,
Hmm.
which a lot of those show up in my dream
A
a
lot.
lot. So this would be Neptune is a great teacher, I think, for when you're doing dream work to map out the symbols and what they mean to you. You know, there's dream books that give us meaning for symbols all the time, but there really is your own unique way that those symbols are speaking to you. But either way, I do feel like consistently these liminal spaces that Neptune governs do show up in your dreams as symbols for transition. Like, hey, heads up, you're in a transition. You're on an airplane for the last four dreams. Like, where are you going? And these are
Mhm.
questions you could ask yourself in other aspects. Um, Inner landscapes, cities that you relate to that you can, you know, for me, like LA is a means ambition. So if I'm on an airplane going to LA in my dream, it's more about like not literally going to LA, but it's like I'm in a transition with something about where my efforts and energy are going ambition wise, work wise. Where am I placing my focus?
Yeah. And I've had lots of dreams where I'm driving. And I
Yeah.
feel like, and it's also when you're in the driving space, that is, you're moving from one place to another. So we're back into that liminal space. But sometimes I'm driving and then sometimes other people
Yeah.
are driving. And I think that is an interesting part. Like I've had a lot of dreams, and I know I've talked about this integration of the masculine, that I feel like I'm integrating these different parts of the masculine, but I've had a lot of dreams where my dad is driving the
Mm.
car. And that's really interesting. And then there's other times where my dad's in the passenger seat, but I'm driving. And so those have been interesting to be like, oh, which one is like showing up. And I think those are
Yeah.
those fun ones where I've noticed that I'm driving a lot
I
in
definitely think
dreams.
for me anyways, I don't know how it's shown up for you, but driving for me has been definitely like my path.
Mm,
And if I'm in the driver's seat essentially and I know where I'm going, or depending on where I've gone in the dream or how I've gotten there, you know, whether I'm speeding there or I feel slow and I can't get through traffic or obstacles or, you know, there's just different ways to look at your path and how you're in the driver's seat and what's happening, where you're going.
mhm.
And then other times where you're a passenger. And again, the dreams are all about the feeling. Like, what is the feeling when you're a passenger? Do you like, are you in a feeling of receiving on your path? Like, are you getting carted around and that's good because you're not having to drive? Or are you having an angsty feeling of like, I wish I was in the driver's seat. If only I could take over this wheel. I think
Yeah.
it really depends. But I love looking at driving as, you know, your journey, your path, where you're going and what all the feelings or obstacles or places that you're driving are conveying.
Yeah. And mine had a lot to do with safety around was like you know, I felt safe when my dad was driving, but then the flip was that then I could also feel safe when I was driving and he was with me.
Mhm.
And so that felt like I was like, oh, okay. You can trust this figure, but then also you can trust yourself. And I
Mhm.
thought that was like a cool flip in the moment. And I was like, oh, okay. Good job, Bex.
Yeah. So I love this period of time for retrograde, just even to give Neptune a nod
Mhm.
because I've learned a lot. Where is your Neptune in your chart, by the way?
My Neptune is okay. I got to think about it. I'm
Middle.
Yeah, I'm looking at my chart in my mind. Yours is in what?
Mine is in Sagittarius in the third
Sagittarius.
house,
I need to go back and look. I don't know
which
off
makes
the top of
sense.
my
So if you think about
Yeah.
astrology, for even Sagittarius is all about higher learning, philosophy, ruled by Jupiter. So it's like very outgoing, optimistic. If you
So
think about
Capricorn.
Capricorn. Okay.
Mhm.
So Sagittarius is also faith and learning, philosophy, higher education. And my moon is there. So I process my emotions in a Sagittarian way, but my moon is conjunct Neptune. So I
Mm.
couldn't think of and in the third house, which is the house of communications. So me sitting here talking about dreams and Neptune on a podcast is exactly Neptune in the third house in
And you
Sagittarius,
also literally just said, it's what you feel in the dream, your
which is
emotions.
my mood.
And so my Neptune being in my first house in the first house is the house of self. So it's all about understanding. So my dreams have always been a way to more deeply understand myself. And mine is also it's in Capricorn. And so Capricorn is an earth sign, but it's also, I've already been talking about masculine. It's I
Masculine.
was gonna say it's Cap Daddy, it's
Yeah.
the masculine, the father of the zodiac. So there is like so funny that what I've just generally been integrating in just this period, but also that is the flavor. It's really helping me in that space in a big way.
So you should take a look at where Neptune, your natal Neptune is in your chart. And then as we've been talking about this transiting Neptune that is retrograde right now, it's in everyone's chart transit wise in Aries. So you can figure out what house that is in to know exactly the Aries qualities of the self, who am I, how do I take action, your hero's journey that's just begun, and really, like we were discussing earlier, this new dream that we're pulling through, this new dream we're giving structure to for the next 14 years. In Aries, you'll have more nuance to that depending on what house it's in.
Hmm.
So for me, that's in the seventh house. Where is
Yeah.
that for you?
Fourth house. So Aries is my fourth house. So the house of home. And yours is house of partnership.
So interesting. So I think it's
Yeah.
interesting that this is the first time I've done a collaboration, really.
There we
So you're
go.
my partner on this journey, this new hero's journey. And yeah, seventh house is both relationships, one on one relationships. So it can be romantic relationships, but also business relationships or just client relationships. Fourth house, home, foundation, root.
Home foundation, which has been I'm correct.
So that being said, has that felt like you can bring in the other qualities of Neptune?
Well, yeah. And also my house is currently on the market
Kind of in between
and I'm
spaces?
in between spaces. So it's like, am I going to stay in the home that I have and that I've created? Or is it going to transition? Is it going to change? And is this an illusion in my mind that I should leave? Or is it real and it's going to happen? And, I'm really
These
having
are
to,
great questions to have during a retrograde.
yeah. And I've got my house has been on the market for a little bit now and I keep going back and forth. Like, should I keep it there or should I take it off and just stay there a little bit longer? I don't really know. But I'm staying open. I feel like I've got the door open if something wants to shift, but if it doesn't,
Neptune
okay,
rules doors,
there we go.
doorways.
Yeah. So the door is open. Whether I end up going through it or not, we'll see.
Another, I know one of our other podcasts, we talked about synchronicities and codes and some more magical things. One thing I noticed about the Neptune retrograde was that it retrograded on July 7th, which is 7/7.
Uh-huh.
And then it goes direct on December 12th, which is
12.
12/12. And so for those of us that like to play in the realm of magical signs, synchronicities, and codes, that's another one. So to me, when I'm looking at astrology or looking at patterns in general, those are things that tell me to pay attention. So
Mhm.
I feel like there is something unique to this particular time between July 7th and December 12th, where we are reviewing our dreams and
Mhm.
all things, not just dreams when you're asleep, but this is Life is But a Dream podcast is one of the reasons we like talking because it is dreaming when you're sleeping, but also life as a dream. Like, what are we dreaming into reality as we learn more about our quantum nature and about consciousness itself and the collective consciousness and, so much happening during this period of awakening on the planet that we had this big moment in February. It was a big deal with Saturn and Neptune being conjunct at the 0 degree point together hand in hand to the same degree to the minute, giving structure to a new dream, a new hero's journey for humanity for the next 165 years, plus, plus, plus. That this tells me that this period of Neptune going retrograde and going back over these early degrees of the first decan of the zodiac is an important time to pay attention, in particular to your inner world. So if Neptune governs the liminal spaces. It is our subconscious mind. It is our feelings. It is the things we can't hold on to, not the material world so much, not where and how we're taking action out there, but it's how we're taking action in here. So, questions to ask yourself that, that we've been moving through maybe some big changes, some big transitions, or some new creative projects, um, new things that you set into motion back when the fire horse year began in February. And now is a moment to check in on those dreams.
Yeah.
Are my dreams, have they been an illusion? Am I disillusioned? Is this dissolving? Is there something dissolving that needs to go? That it could be a period, Neptune does rule this dissolving of boundaries.
Yeah.
And I think this is a
I mean,
really potent, quite a good amount of time to be reviewing these things.
it is, we come back to like the ruler of the ocean, like something could be, it's lost in the ocean. Like certain things need to be left behind?
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes we have a dream or a vision of what something should be. And then when it starts to show up and it's not what we think, it's like there can be this resistance and this tightness to hold on to what something is. And sometimes the way to, you know, even though it's hard, is
Well, I
to
think,
let it go.
Neptune, an unhealthy quality of Neptune is addiction,
Mm,
which could be holding on to things that are not good for you or need to go, whether it's holding on to old thoughts. If we thought about this more in a Neptunian quality, old thoughts, old dreams, old identities. Aries is very much about identity,
mm,
um, old versions of you, where, as we grow in consciousness and as we bring these new dreams in, a new you is asking to be born. A new venture is asking to be born. So, what aspects are old and tired and need to go?
yeah.
And I know that's come up for me for sure. I mean, it's definitely been ever since Neptune moved into Aries. My dreams have consistently been about liminal spaces. I've had lots of elevators, lots of airports, lots of hotels, and lots of questions about myself. Some interesting things have come up that are making me ask, like, oh, is that an old version of me? And am I still acting upon that? Am I still bringing that in? And then even on in the external world, I mean, on July 7th, the day Neptune went retrograde, I signed a contract to sell our land, to sell my
Mhm,
studio space. And I'm in currently this in between.
mm,
The old me I'm having to let go of, which I loved very much. And I feel this loss of identity of who am I and where am I going and what am I doing? And that can feel destabilizing. So it can feel like you're trying to hold on to water when you're not sure what's next, when you are in these liminal spaces.
mhm.
This is where I think dreams are helpful to help us move through these real transitions that are happening in life, where we have things to work with that are subconscious, our psyche, our soul, or even God or your guides. I mean, there's lots of ways to think about the guides and the messages and how they come through in dreams that are trying to help us work through these ways that we're being asked to grow and the ways that we're being asked to sit in the void or in the in between spaces.
Yeah, it's interesting you talk about that in between space because one of the other settings that's shown up for me a lot in dreams lately, like a gym setting, like a
Mhm.
training area. And I have done a lot of shedding over the last year. I had a big relationship that left, something that I thought was going to be permanent for the rest of my life. And that was this huge shedding. It was a complete loss of identity and really had to reintegrate new, you know, this who am I now? Because I had a total vision of what my life was going to be, and that all got um, shaken up. And so I had in the 3D world had a lot of stripping away and a lot of letting go and stuff I was ready for and stuff I wasn't. And
Now you're in
now
your training
and
grounds.
now I'm in this new training ground and I keep showing up in training spaces. And one of the other symbols that's been showing up for me a lot is I have a lot of my nieces and nephews have been in my dreams. And it's this newer, younger element that is coming in, or this like something that is in that neophyte stage
Mm.
isn't quite developed yet. And then that showing up literally, like I had a dream with my nephew and we were running together in a gym. running around.
Oh,
And it was like this training.
it's like a young new you coming out.
Yeah, and it was
Yeah.
like, and we were in, in this together. And again, I go back to this, I've been doing a lot of this integration of the masculine, and here I have this young masculine figure, and
That
we're
is you in the
that
dream.
is me in the dream, and we're training and we're running together. And there's a point where the my nephew's really like, oh, are we done? And I'm like, we can be done for now, and so we like take a break. But it, coming back to like these spaces, it's like I can feel that I have let something go and I am getting ready for something
And you're
new.
in the in
And
between.
I'm in the in between, and I don't know
Mm.
what is next or what is coming, but I also know, and I have this trust, and the training is happening. You're in it,
And I think, speaking of that moment right now, we all have a really beautiful opportunity where Neptune is involved in this basket, this rare astrology
Mhm.
that's coming up actually next week. Barbo's basket. And actually, before I even talk about the basket, I realized today that Pluto has been in a sextile with Neptune for our entire life, but I think all the way since like World War II, I think it was
Oh, wow.
that these outer planets like Neptune govern, because they take so long to transit. So Neptune takes 14 years, Pluto takes 20 years. They govern the collective more so than they do
Individual.
individual. So you feel, it takes longer for the energies to move through a sign and land in the collective, which is why it changes a generation. And every generation right now in your astrology chart would have Pluto, your natal Pluto and your natal Neptune in a sextile. But we're coming to the end of that.
In Describe what a sextile is.
So, yeah, a sextile would be a harmonious aspect.
Okay.
So, this is like how the two planets are working together. So, if Pluto is about death and rebirth, but mainly transformation on a positive note. It's really going to insist on something transforming. Being in a trine to Neptune, it's currently, I think, transforming the collective dream. So,
And to add to that, we talked about, how do these planets get their names? Well, we have Neptune, which is the god of the seas, but then we have Pluto, which in the Greek pantheon is Hades, which is the god of the underworld. And so these are both unseen, like things that we don't have the consciousness to.
this is why you see a rise in our awareness of things that have been hidden, lots of truth coming to light, a lot of disturbances in the field, if you will, whether it's in education systems or government systems or celebrities. I mean,
Mhm.
we're really seeing it in the entire collective. Every which way you look, things that have once been unseen are coming to the surface. Because we're in a moment of transition. We talk about the 26,000-year precession of the equinoxes. The whole of our planet is shifting in another layer of consciousness. We have a 12,000-year cycle that's coming to an end. We have these other smaller cycles. So if I think it's Pluto and Neptune, it's been like 80 or 100 years, somewhere around there, that they've been in this harmonious where they're kind of working together. And if you kind of just step back and just on a surface level, it's been working to awaken our consciousness, bring things up to be able to shift us into a new consciousness. And eventually, I think we have about 10 years left of a sextile, of this positive connection with Pluto and Neptune working together. And then it'll move into a square, which is almost going to test what we've moved through and what we've built, what we've dreamed up and brought into reality and transformed, how we've transformed.
Yeah.
Because squares will be like a challenge. It'll now challenge that. So if our whole collective is moving in this transformation period, it'll maybe be challenged to test its strength.
Well, yeah, and I think that we're also, you know, from this period of like since World War II, it's really just been humans and Earth, and now we've brought
So
in another.
galactic territories.
Yeah. Now, and especially even with like artificial intelligence, where there's like another consciousness that's like involved in the mix,
Yeah.
and so I think like how do we, you know,
That's getting into Uranus's territory.
I know, but that's gonna come up
That's
too.
also in the mix. So since we're talking about the mix,
Yeah.
the Barbolt's basket. So Barbolt was a French astrologer. He's already deceased, but he was really famous for his ability to predict and using timing cycles and being able to predict things. He predicted quite accurately the pandemic,
Mhm.
which he wasn't even around for, but that was came true. And now this next one that's coming up, I think it begins July 15th through like the 20th,
Mhm.
where we have all these outer planets. We have Jupiter and Uranus and Neptune and Pluto all in their signs at 4 degrees. So Jupiter's at 4 degrees Leo, Uranus will be at 4 degrees of Gemini, and Neptune's 4 degrees Aries, Pluto 4 degrees Aquarius. So we will have both Pluto and Neptune in retrograde, but all four of them are in 4 degrees. So in the early decans of their signs, and which is going to affect the first 10 degrees of those signs. And it's creating this, they're all in trines and sextiles. So it's all this really harmonious flow. And Barbolt predicted that that's so big and it's so rare. I think maybe never, even ever,
Mhm.
that it is igniting it's an ignition point for the golden age of humanity.
Mm.
Now, I don't know. It doesn't feel like we're currently there, but I do feel like it's maybe a seed point, that there
Yeah.
is so much shifting within the consciousness of humanity.
Yeah.
And this feels like a really positive influx of energy that is in the field that we're able to work with, since
Yeah.
planets don't do anything to us, but
Yeah.
is creating essentially this field for us to work within.
Work within. Yeah.
But it's my understanding, I mean, the way I see it is this is one of those transits that is really, really, really positive, really, really,
Yeah.
really beautiful and expansive and powerful, but it requires action. You
Yes.
can't just passively cruise through it and be like, well, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Some transits are like that. Like it just happens, like it or not, ready or not, here it
Right. Right.
is.
Here it is.
But
Yeah.
this is one of those that I think is going to take action. Like you're going to need to utilize the fire that's involved
Yeah.
into moving the dreams forward.
So we talked about the outer planets, they take a long time. So some of these are going to sit in these degree points for a while, but the unique one in here is Jupiter. And so Jupiter is, it's going to be in Leo, and that won't stay there that long. Remind me how long it'll be
Well,
there
Jupiter stays in Leo for a year
for
and
a
it
year.
just entered on June 30th. So we have until next summer for Jupiter and Leo, but it'll move fairly quickly
Quickly
away from the
from
4 degree
February
point.
point, yeah.
Yeah.
And so since it does move in, we've already talked about the other brothers, we talked about, um, we talked about,
Zeus.
well, yeah,
Oh,
so so Jupiter is Zeus.
yeah.
So it's, we're bringing it back to, and Jupiter is, the ruler of, the earth and the sky. And so that's like it's the what we can see. So if we go back, this is the more conscious part of it. And so it's like pulling all of that together. And
But I love it because Jupiter is expanding like our
Mhm.
courage to do this.
Yes.
Leo is all about your heart and your will. Like, so your willpower, your solar plexus, and your heart chakra are expanded by Jupiter, your courage, your mission. I know for me, it's going to be happening directly on my Mars, my
Mhm.
natal Mars, which is my leadership point in my 11th house of communities. So
Mhm.
this is one of those pieces for me that as I am in this liminal space, letting go of my land and my studio space, I'm looking forward to the astrology of like, well, it looks like there's a new chapter beginning in that house that's being expanded by Jupiter in
Mhm.
that area in a trine to Neptune that's helping bridge this new dream.
Yeah. And so for me, in Jupiter is in my eighth house of transformation, or the Leo is my eighth house of transformation. And it is highlighting the asteroid Diana, which is she's the huntress in the Greek pantheon. And then it also is my south node.
Ah,
Uh-huh. My south node is at 13 degrees.
but your south
So
node is in Leo?
is in Leo. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's a great. I'm glad you brought that up because we do also in July, later this month, have the nodes shifting
Mm-hmm.
into Leo and Aquarius. So Leo is kind of getting spotlighted right now,
In a lot of ways.
starting like
Yeah.
starting June 30th,
Yeah.
as Jupiter moved in, it's kind of like readying and expanding the space for the nodes to move in.
Mm-hmm.
The nodes are mathematical points that are on the ecliptical axis, and that's where we'll be having the upcoming eclipses and transforming the really, I think the soul mission of
Mhm.
humanity. So the North Node will be in Aquarius, the South Node releasing karma in Leo. So you have some fun coming up for you.
I do. I'm about to have
So you
my
have your nodal return.
yes.
Okay.
So a nodal return is so these 2 points are your like we said, they're your nodes of fate. So they're these fated points, but unlike the other planets that we see in the zodiac, these are just mathematical points, like I said, and they go it moves
Reverse.
backwards.
Yeah.
So we are in the final degrees of Virgo, and then it's
Pisces.
um and so it's so those are where it is, and then it's going to move into Leo and Aquarius. Yeah. So I'm interested to see how my nodal return is going to go. But I did a lot of stripping and a lot of leaving behind in the
Yeah.
last
You've been being
year.
prepared
So I feel
because
like I'm
I mean, I've had a nodal return and a nodal reversal because I'm old.
you're not
Um,
you're not old, you're wise.
so wise, the wise elder. Um, when I had my nodal return in my North Node is in Libra, that completely changed my trajectory.
Yeah.
So, I mean, completely. And in the moment, I didn't even pay attention to astrology at the time, so I had no idea. So it was really profound to look back in hindsight when I learned about nodes. I was like, I wonder what I was doing when I had my nodal return. I was like, oh my gosh. That's when I went to yoga teacher training and shifted my career away from event planning and moved into teaching yoga and the spiritual landscape.
Yeah.
So it was a very big moment. And at the time, I knew that I mean, my whole body was
Mm.
speaking to me like, you must do this. And it didn't make any sense at the time. I just had to and trusted my nudges and did it. But these are the nodal returns are your soul's nudges towards your north node, your soul mission.
In what houses were is your north node?
First, my north node is in the first house.
Oh, so
So it's like
first
a
house,
change of identity.
change of identity, house itself. Yeah, so mine's the second house, which my north node's in the second house, which is
That'll be like a change
values,
of income, values,
values,
self-worth.
self-worth. Uh-huh. And
Yeah.
then my south
Which
node.
is why you're in these dreams of like training grounds,
Yeah,
self-worth, identity,
identity.
integrating the masculine. It's so
Yeah.
interesting.
It's just fascinating.
And, coming back to dreaming with the cosmos. So I know we're kind of covering a couple different topics here between
Yeah.
dreams and astrology, but the idea was, for Becky and I both, when we went back to look at our journals, when Pisces was kind of toying with going into Aries and retrograding back into Pisces and finishing up that journey there, we were really paying attention to like more out of curiosity
Yeah.
and like I wonder, like I know in my waking life astrology really seems to play out pretty accurately, which is why I love it. But does it also happen in your sleep? So does it,
Mhm.
and I did feel the shift between Pisces and Aries and then back to Aries.
Yeah.
And so we both wanted to use this moment of Neptune retrograde to invite you to, if you're not doing dream work already, to grab a journal. It's very easy to grab a journal and a pen and just first thing in the morning, or even have it on your nightstand if you're somebody that needs to jot it down at night and you're not going
Yeah.
to remember. But use this period of time. And I challenge you to spend all the way from July to December, and you'll probably keep going if you really do the work because it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's like having a therapist in your sleep, except it's your own beautiful self giving you your own language that you'll understand and only you can understand, to have a place where you're relaxing. And again, we dream a third of our lives. So, I mean, it's like 30 years we are asleep and dreaming. And that feels really important to know what those 30 years are. A third of your life is this opportunity to expand your imagination. So if you have a hard time recalling dreams, that will be something to look into to practice. I'm sure we'll do I do have some workshops coming up on dream recall in our dream like lab work that we are doing. But learning to work with your nervous system so that you can be in a state of relaxed enough
Mm.
to dream, to have some rituals, some teas, some tinctures. Blue lotus is one that I use. Do you have any that you like to use?
No, but I do the nights that I am able to meditate before I go to bed, because sometimes I read a book before bed, but if I do meditate, I seem to always dream. And
Yeah.
and sometimes it's just put on the meditation and fall asleep. Like, it's not like I'm like, oh, I'm going to be, so active in this, but those
I'm
are the
glad you
times.
mentioned that because I always, when I teach meditation to people, I'm always telling them, just like you clean your teeth, you need to clean your mind. And your meditation before bed doesn't have to be long, but I think an intentional practice
Yeah.
for dreaming tells your subconscious mind that you're asking to remember.
Hmm.
I've done all kinds of things like talking to my water. I do feel like drinking water, actually coming back
Yeah.
to Neptune, even ruling water.
Nice.
Drinking a lot of water before bed, even if it makes you need to get up in the night, that actually helps dream recall. So if you drink a
Mhm.
lot of water, need to go up, go to the restroom, come back to bed, it actually helps put you in this kind of in between state where you don't allow yourself to fully wake up. And when you go back, you can kind of drop right into a dream. So I actually love that.
Yeah. And for me, I don't handwrite my dreams. I type them into my phone. Um, but sometimes I will just voice note them
Hmm.
just to like get them out. And then I go back and look at it later because sometimes certain things don't make sense. But then also sometimes I will write them so quickly and then I'll have little errors in my journaling, and that will even be a code
Oh,
or an additional, like, oh my god, I spelled this wrong, or it was um supposed to be one word and I know it's supposed to be, but then it ends up being a different word that was written down, but that ends up being like an additional message when I go back and read it later.
interesting.
And so yeah, so as long and like sometimes I just like write them all down and I don't even dive into what they mean because I have to jump into work or the day or what's happening, and then it'll be way later, and I keep all of mine in my phone, and so then there's a searchability to it, which
Oh,
is kind of
nice.
nice.
That is nice.
So I'll be able to like go back and search, and that allows me to like find certain things in my dreams.
I do, I write all mine down but I do feel like the audio notes of them, is interesting because I do feel like I convey more of the emotion and the feeling when I'm storytelling it versus writing it down, but I
Mhm.
do both. Especially if a dream was really potent, I definitely audio that to myself because it has so much more energy and transmission in the dream. And you can feel it when I listen back to it. I'm like, wow, that feels really fresh.
Yeah.
But when I first got into dream work, I was loving it so much that I was setting an alarm like way early, 5 a.m., to get up to make sure I had time to do my dream journaling before the day got a hold of me, which set me on a really healthy trajectory. I feel like of getting up early, having my practice, dream journaling, meditating, and giving myself space to actually go back into the dream if there was more to pull from it, or
Mhm,
if
mhm.
there was a lesson I really wanted to understand a little bit better, to meditate on the dream was really powerful as well.
Yeah.
And actually, Neptune rules meditation also. It's like all the things that I love. So I love Neptune.
Yeah.
I love Neptune. I do. And I think, something else that's been interesting coming up in my dreams lately that Neptune governs is time. Have
Mhm.
you had dreams about time coming up?
I haven't had dreams about time coming up, but I have felt like there are times when time is really long and then time is really short. Like, time doesn't seem to be moving how it used to. I think that's one of the things that I've been
Yeah.
noticing. And I started to notice that um like a year or so ago I moved out of being in like a true city into more of a suburban area, and one of the first things I said is that time is slower here.
Hmm.
And then one of the things that I've started to notice just as of late is like I'll be like, I have 20 minutes to do this, and certain 20 minutes feel extensive. Like it's felt like I had 3 hours, and then other 20 minutes felt like what would be like
I
a
did
couple
feel like
minutes.
time sped up when Neptune moved into Aries,
Mhm.
where I was definitely feeling more of the liminal space, the void when it was in the late degrees, particularly the late degrees of Pisces when it was 29 degrees Pisces, feeling the void and like I was sitting with a lot of things and my creativity was flowing. Like there was just a different space where as soon as it shifted into Aries, it was like, oh my gosh, I don't have enough time. The time is speeding up. But in my dreams in particular, like last night, for example, I randomly spun this like, digital phone wheel essentially of phone numbers and I called someone I know in 2025. Like I call, and it was like in the dream, and I spoke to them on the phone. I remember hearing their voice, and I haven't heard their voice in 30 years. And I heard another voice in the background on the phone, but I was just picking something random. And I remember in my dream telling like a group of friends, can you believe what are the chances that I could call back into 2025 and speak to someone? And I just randomly picked numbers and I was able to speak to someone I know. Like in my dream, I was surprised to have reached someone I knew. And it was the concept was like I was able to literally call back in time, like as if they existed in that time place, which obviously is pulling my subconscious mind for review
Mm.
of something in that period of time and that person that I haven't even thought of at all in 30 years is some aspect of me to, I think, review. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
And I've had some similar dreams like that where it keeps being specifically about a period of time or some numbers and or how time is morphing in a dream. So that's a
Yeah.
funky one. Maybe we'll do a podcast on time.
Yeah, and so it's just that call back. So whether you're already recording your dreams, this is a great time to go back and to look at like what has been in the space and maybe see, as we talked about at the beginning, like, is there any arcs? Are there anything that has been showing up more than once? Starting to think about the dream space as not just the individual movie, but really, the series of what it is. And if you haven't started, this might be a good time to start to write them down and see what's happening and
Mhm.
what your subconscious is trying to review or take in and understand. So
And
it's a fun
next
time.
week, coming up, the Barbalt's basket, I would definitely take a peek at your charts and take action to utilize this extremely creative energy. This is maximum creativity, I think, between Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, and Jupiter and Leo.
Yeah.
Extreme creativity. That's what we love sharing dreams for, is to help others play and expand your imagination, expand your creativity, connect with others that are creative, share your dreams, do your dream work. I mean, this is an ancient practice that was meant to help tribes thrive.
Yeah.
And I think,
And allow you to be your own oracle, which is like the best thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're really smart inside here
Don't forget.
and really creative. So, speaking of time, I think it's about time that we wrap this up. Is there
Yeah.
anything else you'd like to share?
No, I think we're good.
All right. Well, thank you for playing with us today. Thank you for exploring the mystical, magical wonders of the dreamer Neptune. And we can't wait to catch you next time.
And remember, life is but a dream.